Well, it sounded weird on my side. Did that come through clear to you, Will Johnson?
Very clear, crystal
Oh,
actually.
good. Well, um, it seems like it's a glitchy Thursday on this happy Halloween to you and everybody else out there in
Ah,
ATP land.
that's what it is because it's Halloween.
Yep, some creepy stuff going down. Really weird. Well, let's get into it. We got a lot to discuss, America, with the boys here, Will Johnson, the founder of United America First, and me, your host, Barry Nussbaum of American Truth Project. Let's start out with the wildly anti Semitic UN Special Envoy Francesca Albanese, who is on a speaking tour of the United States right now, courtesy of various colleges who think it's just great to bring a lady in from the UN who literally thinks that the state of Israel is more or less the Nazis of 1940 Germany. She just gave her first speech at Columbia, and a student in the audience asked her in the question and answer period if all Israelis, moms, dads, old people, children, babies, are legitimate targets. And this UN ambassador, with an extremely high level of authority representing the United Nations, well, she just shrugged her shoulders and laughed. You know, like, is it okay to kill innocent civilians? Moms, dads, kids, grandparents, babies? That was her response. Um, Another student asked if she would condemn the rape and kidnapping and mass murder that occurred on October 7th, 2023, when Hamas invaded all the kibbutzim in southern Israel. The audience laughed, and Albanese would not answer the question. She just sort of shrugged and moved on, meaning it seems that, according to the United Nations, is normal behavior. I'm just so you know who we're talking about. I don't want to have any misconception in the mind of the audience. That's the brilliant, I hate the Jews, I hate the Israelis, but I represent the United Nations as UN Special Rapporteur. I guess it means ambassador. Um, Francesca Albanese. I mean, the amount of anti Semitism coming out of her mouth is absolutely startling. And most of the audience in attendance at the various schools she's hitting on the East Coast are part of the We Hate Israel encampments that have shut down numerous colleges, right? Her first speech was at Columbia. And it didn't matter the fact that she has a long history of anti Semitic, anti Israel, and pro Hamas comments. I mean, keep in mind, this is the lady that right after the massacre said, well, I don't think there was rape. I don't think there was sexual violence. I think these stories are made up by Israel to raise tensions in the area.
Wow.
Are you getting this? To raise tensions in the area. Now, then out came all the GoPro cameras
We're
uploaded by Hamas murderers
not
and
going to pay attention to that, though.
exactly, and the regular Gazans, and crickets. She did say that America is subjugated by the Jewish lobby that controls all of America. Um, this is a lady that shouldn't have a job anywhere. She shouldn't be in charge of people, animals, pets, or cleaning toilets. As far as I'm concerned, she is a vile, disgusting, hate filled maniac, and the UN just loves her. Isn't that just startling?
Yeah, it's really no surprise. It's really no surprise that the UN has no problem with her. I mean, they're probably paying her seven figures even to come out with her hateful rhetoric,
Oh, I'm
and then
sure.
she's going on this propaganda tour to encourage more of the youth to hate Israel as well. it's just Barry, I don't think I've ever imagined that this level of hatred for Israel would be so evident. Not in my lifetime. I didn't think about it. But I believe what the word says. I believe in the Holy Bible, me personally. Not everyone does, but the Holy Bible, a lot of people look at it as a historical document, which because it has a lot of historical documentation in it, we can't knock that. But I believe it is the living word. Me personally, not everyone is the same, but I believe it's the living word, and it talks about Israel, and it lets us know that the world will come down on Israel, and it's like we're seeing it. I mean, what is it? Is the Bible just fiction or is it nonfiction? Which one is it? And I used to say this: if the Bible was just made up, and what are they doing? They're going to the Bible to see, let's see what we can do to the world now. I mean, is that what we're doing?
I don't know. I've
I
never
mean,
seen
that's what
anything
it
like it.
sounds like, right?
You made a perfect comment. I can't believe I'm seeing this in my lifetime either. That
Yeah,
the
we're
United
supposed.
Nations keeps
Yes,
a person like this on the payroll with an extremely important job with a tremendous amount of authority over
yes.
that part of the world.
And you know what, Barry? The United Nations, one of its main purposes that they keep leaving out was to prevent stuff like this from ever happening to Jewish people. A lot of people don't know that. That was one of its main purposes because after World War II, because of the destruction and the death that took place, that's how the UN came about. And a lot of people don't know that. But here it is, the very supposedly organization that was created to help Jewish people in the state of Israel, they're turning their backs on them.
Unreal.
It
And I
really is.
want people to really get it. This woman is vile, evil, anti-Semitic, anti-Zionist, and just thinks it's terrific.
Yeah.
Like, ha ha ha, killing Jews. Next
But you
question.
know what? Yeah, she's not the only one. We have people actually in the US federal government that have the same ideology as she does. They just don't come out and say it. And I'm gonna go as far and say it is that, this person, the I call it the wicked witch that's running right now for the 2024, she's the same way. Now she comes out and she speaks with forked tongue. She's lying to everybody, trying to convince everybody that she's not against Israel when she absolutely is. Same thing. I go as far as with Nancy Pelosi and some of the others, even Joe Biden himself. Even Joe Biden. Did you see the video with Bill Clinton? I sent it to you earlier.
It's coming up in a couple of minutes. Just hold your horses there, young man.
I'm trying to. I'm like, okay, I gotta send this to Barry. I got because I'm like, what am I hearing? What am I hearing?
Stand by.
Okay.
Give me a minute. Let's move on.
Okay.
Before we talk about that, though, I do want to mention the fantastic stunt by Donald J. Trump.
Are you calling me
following-
garbage? Are you about to call me garbage?
I'm going to talk about. Well, we're all in the garbage truck together, my brother. All of us.
Yes, we are. Yes, we're all garbage, apparently.
Yeah, deplorable garbage. If we want to mix metaphors of different campaigns,
can we say the German N word and the German F word? Can we say that?
Which ones are those?
Nazi, fascist.
Oh.
So, right. So that's the German N word.
Okay. Oh, I get it.
Okay. So we are deplorable, fascist, Nazi garbage.
And here's the background. There was a comedian who made a joke, hired by someone in the campaign, the Donald Trump campaign at Madison Square Garden. He made a bunch of stupid jokes. He insults pretty much everyone. He's sort of like a modern Don Rickles, I guess, but not quite as funny. And one of his jokes was about, there's a lot of Puerto Ricans. Puerto Rico is basically a island of garbage. And the joke part was there's this big sea of garbage floating next to Puerto Rico. I guess they don't dispose of their garbage correctly or something like
Which
that.
is
Anyway,
which is a true statement.
it is true. And
Yeah.
it wasn't very funny. And, Trump didn't hire him. Somebody hired him and probably went, oh God, this guy isn't funny. Anyway, and then the campaign moved on at the event. It was a sellout crowd at Madison Square Garden. And I might add, the same place that a number of presidents since Truman have had rallies.
Bill
Eisenhower,
Clinton.
Truman,
Bill
Clinton.
Clinton. Yep.
There's another, John Kennedy. By the way, all of those are Democrats. Nobody said they were Nazis, but
No.
we skip back in history to 1939 when Hitler was there or the Nazis were there, because that made it seem like, at least in the minds of MSNBC, that Hitler was the same as Trump and vice versa. So after the comedian's unfunny joke, Joe Biden went on the air, it looked like in the basement somewhere, and called Trump supporters garbage. Literally called them garbage. Holy cow. Here's how Trump responded. This, in my opinion, brilliant.
This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden.
That was the garbage truck. It's glitching on my end. Were you able to see the video?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it was coming through perfect.
It is working great. So Trump, on his way to a rally in Wisconsin, gets picked up in a garbage truck with Trump on the side. He's wearing the vest. He looks like a garbage man. And he gets to his speech. I think it was in Madison, Wisconsin, huge sellout crowd. And actually it was in Ashwaubenon, wherever that is, in Wisconsin. And he said, I have to begin by saying 250 million Americans are not garbage. And he went on to say, this is what Joe Biden was responding to. A floating island of garbage, Biden said. The only garbage I see out there is his supporters, meaning Trump's supporters.
He didn't say supporter either. It was plural.
Right. Supporters. And then the transcript came out from the White House that they doctored, and they put an apostrophe S as if it was one supporter, meaning the comedian. And every single straight-ish news media outlet responded by saying, that's not the video. The video has supporters. He's talking about all of Trump's supporters. And it was too late. It had gone viral, and they couldn't retract it.
They're already calling it disinformation, Barry. They're already saying that he never said that.
Yeah, well, watch the video. I've watched it 6 times. He says it. Then then they spin it, right? He was just referring to the comedian. No, he wasn't.
He was referring to all of us.
You and me, brother. We're in the garbage truck with Donald J. Trump. And then I thought it was really cool at this rally. Trump goes, I think I'm going to wear this vest from now on instead of the blue jacket because it makes me look thinner, doesn't it? I mean, he was on fire.
Yeah, his team was like, hey, let me take this thing off. Let me take this thing off. And they said, but sir, it makes you look thinner. He said, okay, yeah, you won me over. I thought it was brilliant. Good. You know what? That's when you have a good, positive team on your side. Keep the vest on. He went out there with that vest on, and it was epic. Dude is a legend. I mean, really, because this is not normal, right? And he's not, and thank God he's not being normal. I love the fact that he's doing what they don't want him to do.
Well, it gets better, I guess. The most popular athlete, maybe in the history of Wisconsin, is Brett Favre, the Hall of Fame quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. For those of you that don't know what he looks like now, when he's not in uniform, that's him. He's set like a zillion records. I think that's him in his Hall of Fame jacket. And he's on stage saying, I can assure you, we're not garbage. And the crowd went crazy. He said, this is what Brett Favre said. Looking out, I see police officers, teachers, nurses, grandparents, students. I see everyday Americans that make this country great. He said, I've never previously participated in such an event, but now it's time because people are losing hope. I mean, he concluded with saying, I've lived the American dream, but I want to make sure that future generations get to do it as well. If Kamala broke it, Trump will fix it. He said, we, meaning Trump, he's going to clamp down on illegal immigration, keep men out of women's sports, provide tax relief, cut energy costs, and broker peace in the world. And the crowd loved it. I got news for you. This garbage man thing is the October surprise. It's not going away. It's still trending like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is trending. And then today, I know we're going to get into it. They try to change the narrative, try to change the story about President Trump saying that he's going to protect women, even if women don't like it. And they're connecting it with, reproductive care is what they're making a connection. What he was talking about, he was actually talking about the southern border. But the garbage story is not going anywhere. It is here. It is going to be here. They're trying to change it. They're not going to be able to change it because there's 250 million people in this country that do not consider themselves as garbage. The very fact that Joe Biden said that, and he meant to say it. And then, Barry, there was a press conference with KGB where she was asked the question, did Joe Biden have that in his notes? Was that part of his script? Because you can clearly tell that he was reading. And she was asked, was that part of his script? She didn't deny it.
They asked for the transcripts that are supposed to be released. No.
Yeah. And you know what? We know exactly what he said. And actually, the GOP committee right now is wanting to know why they actually changed the transcript. That's falsifying records. Someone should be held responsible for that.
There's a law that says, you make a very good point, Will. They can't do that.
No, they're not supposed to. The truth is supposed to be the truth, and they're going to archive it. But they're changing the transcripts, which brings another point. Remember, Joe Biden sat down with her. Remember that? And then they kept asking about, they got a transcript for it, the little sit down that he had, but they would not release the audio video on that. So now you can't trust the transcript. If they change the transcript with just one apostrophe, are you kidding me? To say that he wasn't talking about 250 million people, but he was only talking about one? That's huge. So what else have they changed?
We may never know.
Yeah.
We may never know. We've talked about it a lot, Will Johnson. You go woke, you go broke. And that's becoming more and more true, I think you would say. Major billion-dollar companies, not million, billion-dollar companies, one after another have bailed out on supporting DEI. And we've talked about them, Toyota and Home Depot and Lowe's. Some are Tractor Supply. Some are still sticking with it in response to like Toyota. You've got one of the biggest clothing stores in the world sticking with it. And you've got drag queen story hours still everywhere. You've got recruiting videos for the Army and Navy, various armed forces with LGBTQ trans soldiers. Come on into my unit. Like, oh my God, no wonder they can't meet their quotas on enlistment, right? When you've got beauty pageants for women being won by men who dress as women, we ain't out of the woods yet. And
no.
Here's one company, let me show you the picture, who's holding out against reform of their DEI policies. I looked at this picture and I could not believe it. The picture on the left was Calvin Klein 30 years ago.
I remember that picture.
Oh, it was all over Hollywood. It was on billboards everywhere.
Yes.
The picture on the right is where Calvin Klein is today. Is it a wonder? They're losing a fortune. Which one of those people do you want to look like, Will Johnson?
There's only one person out of the 4 people in this one that I can't.
I'm sorry, I was throwing up in my mouth there for a second. That's horrifying, and
it really is.
I wonder how deep the hole has to get before the boards of directors of these remaining companies, like we talked about it a few weeks ago, like United Airlines has a cross-dressing transvestite as CEO, and he goes to the company picnics dressed as a woman and does kind of a striptease dance, but it's a guy. And he brags about pulling men out of the pilot's chairs and putting in trans pilots, if he could find any, and how we don't have enough women. And all he cares about is meeting DEI quotas. None of that, we're really safe and our pilots have a lot of experience and we don't screw up the landings. No. It's like, I know you fly, and I know all you care about is, are there enough midgets in the back? Is the pilot a cross-dressing Cuban hermaphrodite? Because, you're into all those kinds of things. And I'm making light of it because nobody wants to fly on a plane unless the guy or gal up front is fully qualified and takes off on time and lands on time and doesn't screw up
Barry,
the landing.
You bring up a really good point. I never even thought about it, and because I've never seen a midget in the cockpit. Do they have to put blocks on the pedals? I mean,
no, they have to rebuild the plane because otherwise there's not equity.
I mean, so how does that work?
I don't know, and I'm shocked United hasn't found any yet, because you're right. I would feel much better if that was the person flying the plane where I'm in the back. Not.
I just learned not too long ago that DEI actually started under Obama. Obama started the DEI program when he was there. And of course, it came to a complete screeching halt when Trump was in office. And then Kamala Harris picked it back up and ran with it.
Well, she's the first person to occupy the vice presidency picked exclusively on her sex and apparent color. And the reason I say that is because Joe Biden announced in advance, I'm picking a woman and one of color.
Yeah.
He didn't say anything about qualified or, going through primaries or getting voted on.
Yes.
All that democracy stuff has nothing to do with DEI.
Nothing.
And I'm not making this up. That's what he said.
No, that is absolutely, because I remember him saying that. And they were like, oh my goodness, he's going to pick a woman of color. Oh, it's going to be a woman. It's going to be a woman. Not a qualified one, even. Just a woman. And he was told, and rumor has it that he was told by Barack Hussein Obama, this is who you're going to go with.
And that very well might be true. Whew. I've got another DEI comment for you. Gwen Walz, if you don't know, is the wife of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who might be your next vice president. And she has been pushing in Minnesota for the campaign that was started by her hubby as governor, which is tampons in all boys' restrooms in all the schools. And she just did a appearance on Katie Couric's podcast a couple days ago. And Couric asked Gwen Walz about her husband being called Tampon Tim. That's kind of one of the nicknames going around. And conservatives have been calling him that after he signed a bill requiring free menstrual products in the boys' restrooms. So this is her response. if kids are hungry in school, what does that do to brain and learning? You're not going to learn to read. So if you're talking about learning to read and closing gaps, then you better take away the barriers for that. And if that's tampons, then that's tampons, right? Take away the barrier and let them get to the real work, not get lost in what are the components. And some people would say, equaling the playing field or whatever it might be. So to equal the playing field in grades 4 through 12 in every Minnesota school, I'm not making this up. Gwen Walsh was bragging that her husband, that's her, by the way, is Tampon Tim, and it's helping children learn to read. My God.
It's not becoming they put the tampons in the bathroom. Another reason is to help them not be distracted.
Oh my God. So
oh my goodness, this can't be real, Barry.
She concluded, what do you need to move forward? What do you need to be happy and healthy and have success? And how might we most effectively and best help with that? And then mind your own damn business, right? Get out of the way. I think those two pieces describe Tim. He's compassionate. He's empathetic. He removes barriers. That's actually 3 pieces. But the fact is, she didn't go to math class either. The fact is, in this insane, twisted world of these people, a tampon for a boy who biologically in 5 billion years will never need a tampon is going to read better because there's a free tampon dispenser in every restroom in the state of Minnesota.
It is ridiculous.
He could be your vice president.
I mean, that's what it is highly disturbing. The most part about it that's disturbing, Barry, is that we actually have people that hear this story and they know that it's true, but they will overlook it and they will look the other way because of their TDS. The TDS is preventing them from acknowledging the reality of what's happening. The TDS will keep them angry enough to say, I just don't care about the facts. I don't care about the truth. They're putting them in there. This is one of the statements she said, and I just said it a second ago. They're putting them in there because they want to make sure that the students are not distracted. And I'm thinking to myself, if you're a boy and you go in there and look, these boys know what these items are for. They know where they put them. And you mean to tell me these boys at an early age going into the restroom and they put them in there so they're not distracted? What kind of distraction is that? It's a huge distraction.
I can't explain it. It makes no sense.
And they're going along with it.
If you're on a major news interview and you're bragging about it, and the interview host can't understand what the hell you're talking about, and she's a Democrat, because it makes 0 sense. Can I say it enough? Please go vote. Please go vote. A minute ago, you talked about former President Bill Clinton, who you look back on now and you go, geez, he was pretty sane compared to what we got now in that party. And the fact is, he still makes sense. Kudos to Will Johnson for sending me this link. This is literally Bill Clinton explaining the situation in Gaza. He obviously has never sat down with Kamala Harris because this would be a perfect education for her to listen to Bill Clinton. Again, thanks for sending the tape over.
The hardest issue here in Michigan is the Middle East. And I have to be careful what I say because there's only one president at a time, and none of us can get ahead of where we're going, but I think we're going to have to essentially start again on the peace process. And I understand why young Palestinian and Arab Americans in Michigan think too many people have died. I get that. But if you lived in one of those kibbutzim in Israel, right next to Gaza, where the people there were the most pro-friendship with Palestine, most pro-two-state solution of any of the Israeli communities, were the ones right next to Gaza. And Hamas butchered them. And so then the people who criticize it are essentially saying, yeah, but look how many people you've killed in Ritalin. So how many is enough for you to kill to punish them for the terrible things they did? That all sounds nice until you realize, what would you do if it was your family and you hadn't done anything but support a homeland for the Palestinians, and one day they come for you and slaughter the people in your village? You would say, well, you'll have to forgive me, I'm not keeping score that way. It isn't how many we've had to kill, because Hamas makes sure that they're shielded by civilians. They'll force you to kill civilians if you want to defend yourself.
Wow.
He's right. And
Yes.
what he didn't make clear, which I was waiting for him to say, and maybe he said it later, was they're still holding 100+ hostages, Americans, Canadians, French, Germans, Israelis, and so on. And they won't give them back. And literally, and I mean this literally, Israel just offered amnesty to the remaining leadership of Hamas. If they want to leave Gaza, they get safe passage, just let the hostages go. Hamas said no, Will. No.
And
Under any
was it
condition,
what, $100,000 per hostage? No questions asked.
And there's an offer from an Israeli businessman who founded SodaStream, which was the largest employer of Arabs in Israel and Judea Samaria. He's putting up $100,000, no questions asked, for any hostage released alive. And it's not being taken. I mean, you're offering a fortune. It's $10 million for all of the hostages. And he put the money up.
Wow.
Plus free passage out of Gaza. Just release the hostages. And they said no.
Doing it. They're still not doing it.
I wish Bill Clinton had more of an influence over the White House, and maybe there'd be some sanity. Maybe when Kamala gave an interview, or Waltz gave an interview, or Jean-Pierre answered the press, they'd say, hostages must be released first. Then a deal can be made. Or do it at the same time as a deal. But the fact is, calling for a ceasefire leaves the hostages in cages underground.
Yeah, but that's what they want, insane. Barry. That's what they want. You know, if they actually cared about the hostages that were being held, then they would have really gone and they would have been really aggressive. I can say this, after November 5th, President Trump is there. Hamas will be on notice. I'll say that right there. And because President Trump, he's not going to play with them. He's going to say, you either do this right now. I'm not going to give you a week. I'm not going to give you a month. You have hours. You do this now or else. I mean, look how he handled the Taliban. He said, you will not harm another American citizen, not one. And I think it was 18 months. Not a single American was harmed. And the way President Trump presented it, he did it without any bombs, any bullets, taking the life of anybody. He just told them, "I
Well,
got you right here." He showed him a picture
and
of his home.
he slid a picture across the table.
Yep.
This is your house where your
Yep. He
wives
pulled it out.
live
He pulled it
and
out.
all of your children.
Yep. He pulled it out and said, "Look at that." He said, "I will take that out. I will take that out. You included. Touch someone
And
else."
and that ended it. And
And
that
yeah,
ended it.
18 months.
No,
And
no
then, of
more of this.
course,
Let me send you 3 planes full of gold bullion and 12 different currencies with billions in the back and pallets.
remove sanctions. Let's do all of this, and then let's go ahead and start it back up. Boom. And here we are today.
100%. 100%. So we touched on this subject a few minutes ago, Will Johnson, of the constant attacks that have really, really gotten ferocious by the Democrat Party on the Republican Party, specifically all of the talking heads on the media, all of whom are parroting the same talking point, which is basically this, that Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler. No difference. It became Mein Trump from Mein Kampf.
Oh my goodness.
And this graphic is going around everywhere as people talk about the fact that at the Trump rally at Madison Square Garden, which was the biggest one of its kind in history, and there were supposedly a couple 100,000 people outside the whole side of Manhattan where Madison Square Garden was shut down. There were so many people in the streets to support Trump in New York City, of all places. So calling it a Nazi rally is weird because there were Jews, Muslims, Christians, gays, all in attendance, none of which would have been allowed if it was a Nazi rally. Remember, this is Trump with a Jewish son-in-law, Jewish daughter, Jewish grandchildren, and on and on and on.
Yeah.
With a ton of Jews working for him in the White House. But nobody remembers that because Trump is Hitler.
Yeah, you know what? Really quick, at the Madison Square Garden, or in this case, the MAGA Square Garden, they were actually Muslims there supporting President Trump. And I saw a video. There were Muslim and Jewish people standing side by side supporting President Trump.
All true.
Wow.
All
Black
true.
people, white people, Asian people, Hispanic people, all standing together supporting President Trump. And of course, the government state media, they conveniently leave that detail out. And they go, "Oh my goodness, he's a fascist, he's Hitler." And that same rhetoric that they keep pushing is the rhetoric that caused them to try to take him out twice. And they're still doing it. They don't want to talk about it, but they're still pushing it out there in hopes that someone said, "I can save the democracy by taking him out." This is what they're looking for, Barry. They should be held responsible for they're inciting violence. This is not free speech. When you're inciting violence, you go to a movie theater and you call for fire. That's not free speech. These people are inciting violence against their political opponent, and they're okay with doing it. And they lie about President Trump and say he's the one that's doing that, when they're the ones constantly doing it on a day-to-day basis.
You're 100% right. I think this is interesting. A little history I looked up. Apparently, Democrats have been calling Republican leaders of the Republican Party Hitler for a long time. I wasn't aware of this. It goes back to, listen to this, when Barry Goldwater was running for president, Martin Luther King was probably still a Democrat. I see dangerous signs of Hitlerism in the Goldwater campaign. Civil rights activist Roy Wilkins, Goldwater's election would bring about a police state. Governor Pat Brown, Goldwater's acceptance speech had the stench of fascism. All we needed to hear was Heil Hitler. San Francisco Mayor John Shelley, the Republicans had Mein Kampf as their political Bible, and on and on and on. And numerous Republicans have been called Hitler. So the current version is working about as well as the other ones, right? So they called Mitt Romney Hitler-esque, George Bush, Ronald Reagan, Goldwater, all Republicans, followers of Hitler. I guess that's what it means when you're losing.
Yeah, it's the go-to. I mean, saying, Hitler, calling someone fascist, they're just words now. They don't even actually have meanings. They don't have any meaning any longer. They don't hold any water. We don't like you, so this is what we're going to call you. And the whole thing about being a Nazi and a fascist, it was a leftist movement. It was done by leftists. And the tactics that you see from Trans-Tifa and BLM was the same thing that they did with the brown shirts, going after people that were against them, going after Jewish people. It's the repeating history, but they're pointing fingers saying it's them on the right, when they're the ones actually doing everything, repeating history. Even with the censorship, Barry, that right there is the biggest thing. They're all for eliminating free speech. They're okay with taking our free speech away. Does it sound familiar? Kind of sound like something that they did in the past, but no, it has to be Trump. It has to be Trump. These people are right down repulsive.
Remember, Nazi stands for National Socialists. That they were socialists run on a national scale. Doesn't sound like Trump at all, but don't let the facts confuse you, which is basically the attack. So over the last couple of weeks, there's been a very, very upsetting situation where the Israeli intelligence that was going to affect their retaliatory attack on Iran carried out the largest ballistic missile attack in world history on Israel. It was terrifying in Israel. I've talked to my family that's there. It was horrible. Before Israel could respond, somebody in the American government started leaking intelligence that had to do with the Israeli counterattack. Senators Tom Cotton, Rick Scott, and Marco Rubio were on Fox the other day, and all of them said this is treason by whoever leaked information through the United States government to betray our closest ally, and that person should be put on trial. Well, get this, Will Johnson. Here's the person that they think has done it. She works for Robert Malley, who had his clearances suspended because he was in charge of the Iran desk at the State Department and was apparently feeding them information. She was his protege. Her name is Ariane Tabatabai. That's her. And even though there's a tremendous amount of evidence, Will, that she's the one that leaked the information, they didn't fire her. They didn't suspend her. She's been promoted to Assistant Secretary of State.
Good job. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job. I'm going to give you a pat on the back. President Trump even mentioned that when these people get caught doing corruption, no one's been fired. Except for the most, this is extreme here. But the only ones that I think I can only think of one that's been fired, and that was the guy. Actually, did he get fired or did he did they just make him go away? Remember, he was stealing the luggage.
I was thinking about him, the guy that was wearing all the dresses and
he would steal the luggage and wear the dress. Did they even fire him, or did they just
he resigned? Eventually, he resigned. But he was caught in 5 airports. I mean, stealing tens of thousands of dollars in beautiful women's designer dresses. How he knew where the dresses were, I don't know, but he was convicted over and over. He's been convicted 4 times. He's never served a day in jail.
That's wild. But Barry, this is actually worse. Okay, he's just a serial thief, right? He's a serial thief. This is actually worse. She's in the Pentagon. She's releasing sensitive data about an ally of the United States of America. Can someone say spy?
I'm
Hello?
shocked. I'm shocked Israel would tell America anything after this.
I mean, my goodness, wait. I'm you know what? The world is ready for President Trump to come back. The world is. People in
Vote.
Japan,
Go
yes.
vote.
People in Japan marching up and down the street saying we want Trump. People in the UK marching up and down the street, we want Trump. People around the world, Israel, we want Trump. I mean, isn't it something that most of this chaos that we're seeing on the planet could be resolved if they just resolve it here, which which is completely mind-blowing to me. And of course, the numbskulls that we currently have that's running the country is not doing a daggum thing about it. And they're going against our allies. I wouldn't, if I was Israel, I wouldn't share what type of pencil. Was it a number 1 or a number 2? I wouldn't share that information with them. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Couldn't agree more. I'm sure you know who this guy is. Jake Paul is a YouTube influencer. He's got tens of millions of followers, and he has just come out with a very strong endorsement of Donald Trump. I mean, it's really long, really detailed charts and graphs and statistics and so on. Check out what he had to say. I just pulled a little part out of his endorsement.
Good. It shows that we are more divided than ever, and I can't sit back and watch this blasphemy unfold in front of me any longer. What is the problem? Democrats have been in power for 12 of the last 16 years. So if we aren't happy with the current political state, economic state, environmental state, then who is to blame? Tim Walz, the vice presidential candidate, has even said this himself.
We can't afford 4 more years of this.
We can't have 4 more years of this. Even Tim says there needs to be change, and he's right. We need to change from Kamala Harris to the Republican candidate, Donald Trump. Tim, I remind you that your running mate, Kamala Harris, is vice president, currently in the office, and hasn't done anything while she's in office. Basically no accomplishments. Let's start with a chart of inflation during the Biden-Harris term. Their overall inflation is 20.2% compared to the Trump-Pence administration with an overall inflation of 6.7%. Statistically 14% better while Trump was running the economy. As you can see in every category, energy, gasoline, rent, and food, the numbers are exponentially lower and the lowest of the past 30 years of presidents. Again, regardless of your emotion, I'm just presenting you with facts. Do I think Donald Trump is a perfect human being? No, I don't think anybody on this planet is a perfect human being, myself included. Don't judge people off of a character that the media has portrayed them to be. Because Democrats control 90% of the US media, so they will paint a picture to y'all, and that picture is what they want you to see.
He says he has 80 million people that are influenced by his posts. It's a very articulate video. I really wasn't that familiar with the guy, except I knew he's a boxer and he's going to fight Mike Tyson. I hope he lives through it. Even at 1 million years old, Mike Tyson is terrifying. Is this going to move the needle at all, or is it too little too late? What do you think? 80 million people are going to see it, supposedly.
Yeah, I think it's gonna influence a few. I think it will influence a few. Will it influence the masses? No, because at least not the ones that are diehard Kamala Harris supporters. No, there's nothing you can show them that will say, well, reality will kick in and they will all of a sudden say, I'm going to vote for Trump. That will never happen. And again, I have to refer back to it is TDS. TDS is a real thing. Because of the TDS, they will ignore all reality. They will ignore all facts of everything that you present to them. And with everything he just showed is 100% factual. I mean, that should be enough. And you know, the most disturbing thing about everything, Barry, is that those on the left, they come across like they have better understanding of everything. But then when they get presented factual information like that, they don't understand it.
Well,
Making me
that's
do-
interesting. I watched the whole video. I didn't know who this guy was, except I knew he boxed. He's a really articulate guy.
Oh, yeah.
And he's got an enormous following. I mean, when you think about the last election between 3 or 4 states was decided by under 45,000 votes, while 180 million were cast, something like that. That's astounding. In other words, you move the needle this much, maybe you change Pennsylvania, maybe you change Michigan,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know who follows him, but
Yeah.
wait till you hear my next inquiry of Will Johnson. Will, the most influential personality in the world with a podcast is Joe Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
And his podcast is called The Joe Rogan Experience. He sat down with Donald Trump last week. 3 hours they sat at the table. No script, no notes, no
Yep.
bathroom breaks,
Nope.
no earpieces,
Nope.
just Joe Rogan throwing questions at Trump. It has been seen 42 million times. That does not count the rebroadcasts or other podcasts that took pieces of it out. When you start adding up all of those, shall we call it excerpted segments of the Joe Rogan podcast, we're talking 100 million views.
Easily.
1% is a million votes changing. 1/10 of 1% is 100,000 votes.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked you about Jake Paul's endorsement on his YouTube channel. Joe Rogan is many, many, many times bigger.
Oh,
And
yeah.
before you answer the question I haven't even asked you yet, I want to point out he also invited Kamala Harris. Her campaign officially responded yesterday. They said, we will do your interview, but we won't do your 3-hour sit down. That's too long. We'll do an hour and we'll cut it off at an hour. And we won't come to your studio like Trump did. You fly to wherever we say and you set up there and we'll show up when we show up. Joe Rogan said, that's not the way we do things. It's 3 hours,
Yeah.
my studio. I'd really like you to come anytime. And they said, no.
Yeah. Not going to do
Quite honestly, I don't blame her, because there'll be no teleprompter, Will, no notes, no earpiece, just Joe Rogan with his, oh shucks. And he's smart as a whip, but you don't
Yeah.
hear it coming, man. He just sneaks up on you.
Well,
And
but see, I'm sorry. I think Joe Rogan, he would have done the interview not to be a gotcha game. I don't think he would have done that. I think he would have just sat down and just have a conversation.
yeah, he said he wants to get to know her as a person.
Yeah, I think he would have done that, just have a conversation. She can't do that because she's not authentic. Nothing about her is authentic. So she can't even sit down and just talk off the cuff about, stuff. And that cackle. I mean, she would have cackled so much during that. He probably said, okay, yeah, you're right. We need to cut it off at an hour.
I can't take it anymore. Okay, you can go.
Yes, stop with the cackling.
But I got to ask you this. I asked you about Jake Paul, who I wasn't that familiar with, to be honest, but I know Joe Rogan, and like you said, it's probably 100 million views. Young people, middle-aged people, old people, left wing, right wing. He's got a very diverse audience: whites, blacks, liberals, conservatives, UFO people, vaxxers, anti-vaxxers, you name it. Everybody's been on with him. And I mean everybody. Does this change some minds, do you think?
Yes. Yes, because they saw Trump in just like a personal position, just being a person, talking about you. Yeah, they talked about UFOs. They talked about sports. They talked about the border. They talked about they just talked. They just had a conversation. And President Trump was able to sit there and he talked. I mean, he wouldn't even let Joe Rogan talk for the most part. He did most of the talking. And, it was an easy 3 hours for Joe Rogan because he's just like, Joe Rogan had to interject himself in there, which was good because President Trump, he just showed that, look, I have a lot to say. I have a lot to share. And it wasn't the speech that you hear on the rally stage. It wasn't any of that.
No,
they talked about the JFK files.
Style. You're right.
Yeah, they talked about JFK files. They talked about the Martin Luther King files, right? Which they don't want that information to come out, right? They talked about just everything, which made him look personable.
And also very human, I think. Don't you?
That's what I'm saying. He's like, man, he's like my grandpa. That's how they're looking at him. He's like someone's grandpa. And it was like he didn't say anything, He didn't say anything.
He didn't seem very Nazi-like to me.
And then, to my understanding, JD Vance went on Joe Rogan, and I haven't seen that footage yet. But he went on Joe Rogan yesterday or day before yesterday.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I think they didn't release it right now, so the garbage story will still just run its course.
And then, by the way, in Rogan's official count, it's at 42 million, and he has claimed that YouTube and the media was suppressing his video for 2 days, and he has the proof. And he's the biggest podcaster in the world.
Yeah, actually, I went on there yesterday, and if you type in Joe Rogan Trump interview, YouTube will not allow you to see it.
Wow.
Joe. Yeah, if you do it, it is there now. It's there now. If you type it in, it's the first result. But before, you had to go directly to his page in order to see it. And it went viral that YouTube was doing this. How was that not election interference?
And you're screwing with Joe Rogan, the king, the biggest one there has ever been. And they literally shut it down, from what I understand.
Yeah. And he made sure he didn't play anything, do no videos or nothing, no audio, so they would not hit him with a copyright. And they still made it where you could not find it in the search result. Someone went in and typed that down, Barry. Someone purposely did that.
I agree.
I'm so ready for President Trump to get back in office so he can fix this censorship issue. And these companies, I hate to say this. No, I don't hate to say it. These companies, they need to become like utility companies. This has to come to an end. This needs to come to an end.
We're going to wrap it up today with this week's Israel is not an apartheid state segment. I have a very illuminating video of an Arab Israeli woman describing her life in non-apartheid Israel. But just to review, because I do this every week or so, apartheid refers to the implementation and maintenance of a system of legalized racial segregation in which one racial group is deprived of their political and civil rights. It's a crime around the world. It's a horrible system that, thank God, is behind us. Listen to this young lady talk about whether or not Israel is an apartheid state based on her experience in Israel.
It could give us, even though we were Arabs, and they're calling Israel apartheid. They're calling Israel making genocide. And this point is actually puzzling for me, because 25% of the Israeli population is actually Arabs. Most of them are Muslims. More than 20% are Muslims. I'm one of them, right? And the Arabs in Israel are getting like equal rights, right? Like they're citizens for everything, getting welfare, education, healthcare, anything that a Jewish citizen would get. So how can we call this an apartheid or committing ethnical genocide? I was born to a Bedouin family. Bedouins are nomadic Arabs. My mother is penniless and illiterate. She doesn't know reading and writing because her parents didn't believe that women have the right to go to school. They should be on the fields and herd the sheep. Israel, after it was founded, it forced all children to go to school. It's like mandatory. And it couldn't stand that there are girls who are not getting educated. If not Israel, I probably would be illiterate, penniless, herding sheep somewhere in Galilee, right? But I have electrical engineering degree. I have masters from Stanford University. And I have my rights to live my life the way that I wanted to live them. Israel gave us everything that it could give us, even though we were Arabs. And people are talking about apartheid and ethnical genocide. It just doesn't match the truth. It doesn't match the reality. They need to go and read the facts. And it's funny that sometimes it comes from intelligent students at elite universities saying this kind of nonsense. Thank you.
When you listen to a young lady like that, who's an Arab, who's a Muslim, who's Israeli, coming from ancestry where her own mother was prevented from learning to read because Arab women aren't educated if they are in traditional homes. And this woman comes to the United States for a massive education and tells the world, look at me. I am not a victim of apartheid. Hopefully it'll change a couple minds. What do you think?
Not the ones that are stuck on hating Israel.
Well, that's frustrating because when you tell the truth and you let people know the way things really are,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
there and you're one of the people that supposedly needs your protection, and they're saying, hey, I'm so thrilled I don't live in Lebanon or Gaza or Egypt or Jordan or Saudi Arabia or Iraq or Iran. I could end up dead there if I had the same goals I have here. Right?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, you know, I guess for the most part, Barry, especially these people walking the streets protesting against Israel, we live in a bubble. Right? Because you constantly saying, why don't you take a trip there? Because all these people that have all the answers for Israel, they've never even been there. How I've never been, I want to go, but how would it look for me to tell Israel what to do and what they shouldn't do? I mean,
Well,
right? I mean, at that
not
point, it'd
very
be like,
good. It won't work.
yeah, I'd be like, get somewhere and sit down and shut up, right? That's what needs to be said by Israel. Get somewhere, sit down, shut up. You're not even contributing. You're not even trying to bring a resolution. You're not even trying to bring resolve to what's happening in the region of the world. They're not even trying to do that. But when you have a young lady like this, she, you know what? I take it back. Maybe she just might influence somebody. But the reason why I'm skeptical on it is because I know of a lot of people right now that they can't stand AOC. They can't stand Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Presley, the squad. They can't stand Kamala Harris, but yet they call themselves conservatives and they side with all of the people I just listed off when it comes to Israel. What is that?
It's
like,
one word. I got
like,
the word. It's anti-Semitism. That's
yes,
all.
and I'm like, do you not even question the fact that you're siding with these people? And they constantly talk about them all the time, but then they turn around and they side with them.
You're
when
right.
It comes to Israel.
So that's why we're here. We tell the truth every week, and we hope we change a couple of minds. It's all you got.
Yeah.
It's all you can do. Will, that's all you can do. Tell the truth.
Yep.
Thanks for a great day. Thanks for a great show. Remember, everybody, it's only a few more days. Please go vote. It's never been more important. We're voting. He's voting. You should vote too. Meanwhile, we will see you next week, and we'll let you know then what we think of the new president of the United States.
Yep. Go red, or we're all. You can figure out the rest.
We're all something, that's for sure.
Yeah. Go
We'll see
red,
you
or we're
soon.
all.
Oops.